Hi there, this is the Common Magician. We're going to try something a little different today. Recently, I posted a short talk about a number of different topics that are somewhat common and controversial, things that come up regularly in magic. I titled it Answers to Questions You Didn't Ask. And we talked on there about two particular things, which was the two-perfect theory and suspicion, the eradication or elimination of all suspicion. And these are things that are advocated as existing or being possible, that perhaps a trick can be too perfect and that it can give up the secret, and just because the presentation points directly to the one clear explanation, right or wrong. And also, on top of that, as an additional layer, the arguments concerning how one should deal with that. Can you eradicate all suspicion, as some people would say you should do, that you should eliminate all suspicion? That's really how you should resolve the problem of the too perfect scenario. Versus another side which advocates for the addition of alternative solutions, right? Or the red herring sort of compromise, where you are adding these red herring sort of off-track solutions that the audience will get lost in, thereby keeping the secret, the true secret and the true method from them. Now, one concern about that is, of course, that if you're adding alternative ways or the impression of alternative methods, you are actually, in my opinion, decreasing amazement by doing that, right? And likewise, I'm not sure that it's actually possible, in fact, I'm pretty certain it's not, to eradicate all suspicion, because the nature of doing a magic performance is inherently suspicious. And the audience, in my point of view and my philosophy, is already aware that there is a method in play, and they are kind of actively sorting it out, even in the best case scenario. So I don't think a trick has failed or a presentation has failed when the audience is kind of running the hamster in their brain on the wheel, trying to figure out how it was done. So what I want to do is I want to look at this performance. This is Asi Wind, and he performed on Penn and Teller a while back. It was on a holiday special. And if you remember this performance, they were giving away, trophies to everybody. So there wasn't really any kind of adjudication going on here. And at the end of this, Penn and Teller say that, he fooled them. I'm not sure if that's true or not, and I kind of suspect that he actually fooled them. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the construction of this trick and this presentation. We are not going to divulge any methods. I am not interested in, exposing anything. I think that would ruin the whole point of this, right, which is to be affected by a magical moment. But I am going to talk about the construction of this particular presentation, because I think it hits on a number of different issues related to the two-perfect theory and the eradication of suspicion that I think sits pretty well with some of the comments that I have made. So let's watch this, and I'll stop momentarily to discuss my kind of analysis of what's going on here. Again, not exposing any methods. We're not going to talk about methods in and of themselves at all, but to look at the construction of the presentation and what the benefits are here. This is one of my favorite presentations ever on the show. This is a trick that I enjoyed thoroughly when I saw it live, and I think it's a model for how to construct a presentation that is not only, of course, fooling, which is kind of the point of all this, but is magical, but is also highly engaging and entertaining. So let's take a look here at Asi Wind.
Thank you. Every magician that's been on this show has tried to fool Penn and Teller, and then they tried to figure it out and explain in code how they think it's done. And I know what the rest of you must be thinking. You're thinking, why do they have to speak in code? That's rude. We also want to be included. We also want to know how it's done. That's why I'm going to show you a trick and explain exactly how it's done. So Penn,
Yes.
I need you to choose a person we can trust. Somebody from the audience.
Oh, you want a regular audience
A
person?
regular audience member. Somebody.
Oh, okay. Well, you got the sweater. Give her the sweater. Give me the sweater.
You're seem fine. Do you mind standing in the very spot? And your name is?
Trevor.
Trevor, I want you to do me this favor. Imagine you have a deck of cards in your hands, okay? Hold them up. And do you want to pull out the number cards or the picture cards? What do you want to pull out?
I'll pull out the picture cards.
Picture cards. That means jacks, queens, and kings. Do you want jacks, queens, or kings?
Kings.
Oh, kings? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it, okay? Just, take your time. You don't have to rush, Is it still a king?
I still like kings, yeah.
You still like kings. Hearts, clubs, diamonds, or spades?
Spades.
The king of spades. Do you want to change your mind? One last second you have.
Yeah.
Different suit? What suit do you want to
King of clubs.
King of clubs. Twist in this. It's dramatic. Okay, twist. I have a wooden box, and inside I keep a deck of cards. Now you start with the king of
Spades.
and you switch to king of clubs. Very, very, very interesting. Because I have, as I told you, a deck of cards. Before the show, backstage, I went through the deck and I removed one card from the middle and reversed it. And it could have been any one of these, obviously, anyone that you named. But you named the king of clubs. And I'll show you every single card, every one of these, except for one card in the middle is the king of clubs. No. I was really sure you're going to say king of clubs, that I took this card from a different deck. That's how sure I was. It's the only blue card in the deck. No. I was really sure. I don't have any other card but the king of clubs. It's the only card I have here. These are all blanks. Every one of these cards is a blank card. This is the only option, the only card you could have named. And I know. I know you love to examine cards, so these are for you. Happy holidays. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourself. The first time I got fooled was when I...
Okay, so we'll stop right there. The trick is over. Okay, that was the whole trick. Everything after is really just gravy, right? That is really the only effect in play. And as you'll see, everything that comes after this is pure entertainment. But the interesting thing is that all of what follows plays off as additional magical moments, even though they're not. Now, at this very moment in time, even though this is the end of the trick, and actually especially because this is really the end of the actual trick, all of the method has finished at this point, there are a number of questions that a person might have. I know that as I watch this, I had questions right now. And what he's going to do is he's going to deal with those questions. And he's going to do it in a very interesting way. So if we were to apply the two perfect theory to this right now, and I don't think this really approaches that. I think there's enough cover already at this point that you don't... His illusion is not pointing directly to the method. There are some, telltale things that happen there that, of course, kind of tip off a major part of the method. But there's, I think, too many layers right now to really kind of pin all of it down for most people. But again, there are some questions. There is suspicion here. It's inherent to it. And if you're looking at this and watching it and thinking, you have some suspicions and you have some questions about what's going on. So what he's going to do is he's going to, in my view, he's going to apply the argumentative standard that he will give the audience alternative explanations to the effect. And he's not merely going to do that. He's not going to throw out some red herrings merely to let the audience wonder and decrease their amazement and sort of come to a conclusion through wonder that he could have done this a number of different ways. Instead, what he's going to do is he's going to display red herrings for the audience, but he's going to address them and cancel them out, which is a very effective way, I think, to deal with a too perfect scenario. That is to show possibilities, give an explanation that seems logical, that seems tangible, and then annihilate those possibilities one by one. And what that does, I think, is that it brings the audience to a place where they can't recall their initial suspicions. Their initial suspicions are really kind of buried underneath everything to follow. So let's see how he does this.
I was 13 years old. I went to a magic shop, and the man behind the counter showed me the first card trick I've ever seen. And I remember I was in awe. For me, it was a miracle. I said to him, "You gotta tell me how it's done." And he said, "Well, it's impossible. It's against the magician's code. But I can sell it to you for 50 shekels. I said,
that's what I'm saying right there. He makes a joke, but that's the reality of the concept of exposure. So whenever you have people selling effects, what you're really dealing with in terms of ethics, with people selling magical effects in the marketplace, what you're dealing really is with legal copyright. I think that the Magician's Code issue is really out the window because apart from a paywall, they are giving up their secrets, right? They are selling them. You don't have to have earned anything. You don't have to have accomplished anything. All you do is have to show them the money, and you can see the secret. It's for sale. It is for purchase. So whenever we're talking about exposure, I think in that light, I think we have to be careful with what we're saying about morality. I think there's a morality issue there that deals with legality and copyright. It's dealing with that kind of issue more than anything else. A person who really wants to keep magic a secret doesn't sell their effect. And you can see this with a number of people that have come, late into their careers and into retirement, and they're compelled to share their work. And some of them have a real hard time giving up with it, giving up their methods, especially with some of their more coveted effects. Some people just won't. They won't share entirely what they did. You can look at some of these lectures that are out there. There are lectures where people share their methods and their ideas, and then there are other lectures which are really interviews, and the people will talk about everything but the specific methods because they just don't want to give it up. They'd rather talk about other theoretical things. So anyway, just as an aside, he makes a really good joke there that makes a really good point, which I think ties into the copyright issue that we were talking about on the previous video. Let's continue here.
Okay, I'm buying it. I bought the trick, learned it, and years later I realized that even though I learned a great trick, I lost something in that store. I lost the mystery. I could never see the trick again. So I'm going to explain this trick to you. But keep in mind that once I show you how it's done, you can't unknow it. Do you still want to know how it's done? Huh? It's going to be 50 shekels a person. All right, it's the holidays, it's on the house. So first things first, you have to remember that everything on stage is a part of the illusion. Nothing is innocent, nothing is as it seems, because my goal is to create a moment that has no explanation.
I love how he's telling the truth. He's really telling the truth, and he's lying at the same time, right? Everything on the stage is useful. Everything is necessary. That's true. Not merely for an effect to be effective, but it is for his presentation, right? That his presentation really counts on everything being there and being presented the way he will in a moment. And everything on the stage is required right now for him to accomplish the feat. So, it's just fun, to watch someone work this way.
Explanation. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, why did I place the cards inside a wooden box and not just right on the table? I did it because I had to. So let's replace this.
Also true, right? In spite of anything you see next.
Box with a similar box made of clear plastic. And it's very, very similar, but what's special about it is that when you open the lid, it lifts the bottom with it, okay? So there's a little bit of a path. Also, there are magnets on the bottom of this box, and this table has a trap door. So when I place it right above the trap door, when I open it, it will open the trap door with it, and you can see that inside there's decks of cards. Yes, decks of cards inside. Now, at some point, if you remember, I was drinking. Why did I drink? I did not have to drink.
So at this point, his presentation is exposing a method. So he says, right? He's explaining how the trick is done. And if you've seen this before, you know how it ends, and we'll see in a moment. But at the same time, what he's done is he took a very dirty situation. He did not end clean at all. And he has built in these layers that don't merely add red herrings, but they actually clean up, right? He's clean now. He's perfectly clean. Everything is clear. There's no way to, if this was a regular show, there would be very little difficult way here for Penn and Teller to examine the trick. They'd have to just go on what they saw, and that's all they would get. So very, very clever, and this is a way in which someone, I think, can add a red herring, but again, he's going to deal with it differently. It's not just left there out in the open, unanswered for people to ponder and decrease amazement. He's going to bring the amazement through the roof in a moment here. But it is a way in which you can add a red herring, and it actually increases the value of the method. It makes the method function better, right? This would be akin to not merely making a coin disappear in your hand, right? But finding a way to put it in your pocket and doing something else in terms of the effect. Once you've ditched, if the presentation requires you to ditch everything you need to get rid of, that's better in terms of presentation than being caught dirty, right? And that's effectively what he's doing here. He's cleaning up at the same time that he is adding additional layers of mystery and wonder to the trick.
I drank because I had to for the trick to work. You see, this mug has a little bit, 4 magnets on the bottom. And underneath the surface, there's a disc, a circular gear. So if I place it right about here, and if I now turn the mug, it will cause all the decks inside to rotate, okay? You know what? Let me just give you a much better view on this so you can really understand. This is a very strong magnet. So you understand how this really works. As you can see, you have all the decks in there. And when I place it right about here and rotate that, then in every one of the 52 decks, there's 1 card reversed. And obviously I took, as you can see, 1 deck because that was the card you named, so I had to take that one. And every other deck has 1 card reversed. Do you see how this could help you with the trick? I wanted you to feel for a brief moment what it's like to be on my side of magic. For a brief moment.
Again, the trick ended minutes ago. This is, this has nothing to do with the effect itself or the method. Again, as we'll see in a moment. But this increases the value of the presentation. This seems quite magical, and he's going to have it's a pseudo-magical moment. In a moment here, we're going to see something that looks amazing and looks magical, but really he hasn't done anything magical, right? That he didn't make anything disappear here in a moment. He did not make anything transform in a moment. He did not make any penetrations. He did not make any transformations. He didn't do anything like that. But at the same time, there will be the sensation of magic, and you can see how this just increases exponentially the value of that initial effect.
Moment to enjoy the part that I find beautiful. But I did not want you to pay the price I paid. When I lost the mystery, I could not see the trick again. I made a choice. I chose to learn the secrets, but you didn't. And I can't make that choice for you. That's why I told you at the very beginning that everything on stage is a part of the illusion. Nothing is innocent. Nothing is as it seems. Thank you.
So, that I think deals well with these two subjects of the two perfect theory and the eradication of suspicion. He did not eradicate suspicion at all. He did not answer those questions that one would have or might have at the very beginning concerning the method of the actual illusion. He seems to have performed a number of different effects, but he's only performed one effect. There's only one effect, and it was done within the first minute and a half. Everything thereafter was addressing the concerns that a viewer might have at the conclusion of the actual effect. But he doesn't answer them. He does not eradicate suspicion. All of those things still stand there. They're just forgotten, right? They're forgotten. They're not something that you're considering or thinking of anymore, because the presentation buried them. It was all of this that we saw in here was a misdirect, right? This was all misdirection. And it's brilliant, really, really well done. This was, again, one of my favorite presentations on the show. And I think, Penn and Teller, they say that he, would fool them on any day. He would fool them any time, I think they say. But I'm not sure they're really fooled by it. It's just that the presentation stands head and shoulders over, I think, even dozens of effects that would fool them, just because it's so brilliantly thought out and clever. So, is there such thing as a too perfect, situation? I think so. I think that not necessarily his presentation, but there's a sense in which if he would have stopped right where he was after the real effect was finished, I think there was a lot of suspicion there and a lot of questions that would need to be answered that were very direct, and I think get down to the way that he actually accomplished the trick. Can it be dealt with by adding red herrings? Apparently, because that's what he did. It's really, that addresses it, right? This is the thing that people say, you can't do that. It decreases amazement. Well, he just did it. But what he did was very nuanced. He added these things as a misdirect, and he resolved them. He answered questions that the audience had, and thereby he cleaned up. He cleaned up the situation and made it more effective in the moment. And he distracted, and he confused, and he got the audience in a state where now they feel that they don't have any answers. They thought that they had a good answer. They thought that he was giving them a good answer. They thought that they had their questions addressed, and now they're left with nothing. And that's exactly where he wants to be. So anyway, I just thought I would share that with you. Hopefully I don't get any kind of strikes for showing this, but, from either him or CW. But very impressive effect, and, without getting into how things are done and without exposing anything, I think we can still appreciate the value of the presentation and the construction of it there. So good luck. Hopefully you learned something from this, and I wish you happy magicking.